The dim glow of a single street lamp flickered over the cracked sidewalk in the forgotten outskirts of a dusty border town where the air hung heavy with the scent of rain-soaked asphalt and distant diesel fumes. It was just past midnight, the kind of hour when the world felt like it was holding its breath. A young girl, no older than 10, huddled against the cold brick wall of an abandoned diner, her small frame shaking not just from the chill, but from the terror etched into her wide eyes. Sophia clutched a tattered backpack to her chest, her clothes muddied and torn, faint signs of struggle marking her arms like shadows she couldn't shake. She had run, far and fast, from the only home she knew, a place where shouts echoed like thunder and hands gripped too tight. Now, alone in the whispering wind, she whispered to herself, "He's coming," he promised. Though she wasn't sure anymore who he even was. Tears carved clean paths down her dirt-streaked cheeks as headlights pierced the darkness, not the predatory glare of a pursuer, but the steady rumble of a lone motorcycle cutting through the night like a guardian's vow. Ethan Ghost Harlan pulled up slow, his weathered leather jacket creaking as he killed the engine. At 45, Ethan was a man carved from the harsh edges of forgotten wars and broken roads, scars from shrapnel hidden under ink-black tattoos, a limp from a desert ambush that never quite healed. He'd been riding solo for years, haunted by a promise made under firelit skies in a far-off land, a brother's dying words, "Watch over mine if I don't make it back." He'd buried that oath deep, letting the miles erode it, until tonight's wrong turn led him here. Dismounting with a gravelly sigh, he spotted the girl and froze, his calloused hand hovering near the handlebars. Something in her frightened gaze tugged at the frayed threads of his conscience, an echo of losses he thought he'd outrun. "Hey, kid," Ethan called softly, his voice rough like engine gravel, but laced with an unexpected gentleness. He kept his distance, boots planted firm on the uneven pavement, the faint scent of motor oil clinging to him like an old friend. Sophia flinched, curling tighter, but her eyes locked on the faded photo peeking from his jacket pocket, a snapshot of younger men in fatigues, laughing under a relentless sun. One face stood out, mirroring the ghost of a memory she'd clung to through nightmares. "You lost?" he asked, crouching low to meet her level, the cool night air brushing against the stubble on his jaw. She shook her head, then nodded, confusion warring in her expression. I ran. They said he's gone forever, but I saw your bike. It sounds like his." Her voice cracked, small and fierce, as if naming the fear would banish it. Ethan glanced at the photo, his thumb tracing the edge where his old squad mate, Marcus, grinned back. The man who'd saved Ethan's life twice over, only to vanish in the chaos of extraction. Marcus had spoken of a daughter once, in hushed tones during lulls in the fighting, a secret kept from the world for her safety. But Ethan had never connected the dots, never sought her out, until now. The distant wail of sirens cut the tension, growing louder, a reminder that this town wasn't kind to strays. Ethan's jaw tightened. He'd seen enough corruption in badges to know not all help came clean. "Listen," he said, extending a hand slowly, palm up like an offering. "I'm not here to hurt you. Name's Ethan. What's yours?" Sophia hesitated, then whispered, "Sophia." In that moment, as thunder rumbled on the horizon, Ethan felt the weight of that old promise stir, pulling him from his solitary path. He didn't know it yet, but this chance encounter would summon shadows from his past, binding him to a fight for a girl who might just be the key to his redemption. Word count be damned. The story unfolded in Ethan's mind like a reel of film, each frame sharp and unrelenting. He helped her to her feet, her hand tiny in his, and they slipped into the diner's shadowed doorway just as patrol lights swept the street. Inside, the air was stale with dust and faded dreams, empty booths like forgotten confessions. Sophia eyed him warily, but curiosity won out. That picture. The man with the scar on his cheek. Is that... Ethan pulled it free, the paper crinkling under his fingers. Marcus's eyes stared back, alive in ink. Yeah, my brother in arms. We rode through hell together. Her breath hitched, and she leaned closer, the faint glow from a cracked window illuminating her face. That's my dad, Marcus. He used to tell me stories about a ghost who watched over him, said if he ever didn't come home, the ghost would find me. Ethan's heart stuttered, the pieces slamming together like an engine firing to life. All these years the promise hadn't been buried. It had been waiting, a beacon in the dark. But as joy flickered in her eyes, doubt crept in. Marcus had left no records, no trail, vanishing after the war to protect his family from old enemies. What if this was a trap? What if dragging her into his world only painted a target on her back? Outside, the rain began to fall in earnest, pattering against the tin roof like impatient fingers. Ethan pocketed the photo, his mind racing through the miles he'd need to ride to uncover the truth. Sophia, if that's true, I owe it to him to keep you safe, but it's not simple. There are people, bad ones, who might not want that. She nodded, a spark of trust igniting despite the fear. In that dingy refuge as the storm raged, Ethan made a silent vow. He'd call in the crew, the Iron Vow riders scattered across the states, brothers who'd sworn the same code of loyalty, 50 strong, maybe more, ready to roll for honor's sake. By dawn, as the first light pierced the clouds, Ethan's phone buzzed with the first replies. Messages from old ghosts answering the call. The girl who'd screamed at a faded photo was no longer alone, and the biker who'd stopped for a hunch was stepping into a legacy that would test every scar, every secret. But for now, in the quiet before the ride, Ethan just held her hand, the weight of unspoken truths hanging between them like the promise of thunder yet to break. If you're watching this, hit that subscribe button now. Stories like Ethan's need to reach more lost souls out there. The rain had eased to a misty drizzle by the time Ethan eased his bike onto the cracked highway leading out of town. Sophia perched behind him on the worn leather seat, her arms wrapped tentatively around his waist. The engine's low growl vibrated through them both, a steady pulse against the uncertainty churning in his gut. Streetlights blurred into streaks of amber as they cut through the pre-dawn fog, the scent of wet earth and pine mingling with the sharp tang of exhaust. Ethan's mind raced faster than the tires. Marcus's daughter here, after all these years. The promise he'd buried under layers of solitude now clawed its way to the surface, demanding he honor it. But trust was a fragile thing, forged in fire and tested in shadows. He glanced in the rearview mirror, catching Sophia's wide eyes reflecting the passing world, her small face a map of exhaustion and fragile hope. They pulled into a roadside motel just as the sky began to lighten, its neon sign flickering like a dying heartbeat. Desert Rose. Vacancy. The parking lot was a graveyard of rusted pickups and forgotten dreams, puddles mirroring the grey clouds overhead. Ethan killed the engine, the sudden silence amplifying the distant call of a lone coyote. He helped Sophia down, her sneakers squelching in the mud, and led her to the office, his hand a gentle anchor on her shoulder. The clerk, an older woman with eyes like chipped porcelain, barely looked up from her crossword as she slid over a key. Room 7, cash only, no trouble. Inside the room, the air was thick with the musty odor of old carpet and faint cigarette smoke, the single bulb casting long shadows across peeling wallpaper. Sophia sank onto the sagging bed, clutching her backpack like a shield, while Ethan paced, pulling out his phone. The screen glowed with notifications, texts from the Iron Vow, his scattered brothers answering the midnight summons. On my way, Ghost. What's the play? From Jax, the burly ex-Marine, who'd patched Ethan's wounds more times than he could count. Riding from the coast. Family first. From Lena, the only woman in the crew, a nurse who'd traded scrubs for leathers after losing her own kin to a corrupt system. 50 souls, bound not by blood, but by oaths sworn under starless skies, ready to converge like thunderheads. Sophia, Ethan said, sitting on the edge of the bed, his voice steady despite the storm inside. He handed her a bottle of water from his pack, watching as she took a tentative sip. Tell me everything. About your mom, your home, why you ran. She hesitated, her fingers twisting the label, the room's quiet broken only by the hum of the ancient air conditioner. Then, in halting words, the story spilled out, a stepfather's iron grip, whispers of debts unpaid from Marcus's past, a home-turned prison where love was rationed like scraps. Mum said Dad was a hero, but they took him away, said he owed money to bad people. Last night, he came at me, yelling about finding something Dad left. I grabbed my bag and ran, saw your light, heard the bike, like the stories. Ethan's scar throbbed, a phantom ache from the desert heat where Marcus had pulled him from a burning Humvee. Heroes didn't always come home whole. Sometimes they left pieces behind to protect what mattered. Your dad, he saved my life, more than once. We were in the sand pits, places that swallow men whole. He talked about you, called you his little star, said if anything happened, I'd be the one to find you. Sophia's eyes welled, but she didn't cry, instead a fierce nod, as if sealing a pact. Outside, the first rays of sun glinted off the bike's chrome, turning the droplets into diamonds. His phone buzzed again. Jax, closer now, ETA 2 hours. Ethan typed a quick update. Girl in trouble. Marcus's blood. Need eyes on her trail. But as he hit send, a knock rattled the thin door, sharp and insistent. Instinct kicked in. Ethan motioned Sophia behind him, his hand drifting to the knife tucked in his boot. Through the peephole, a silhouette in a rumpled coat, face obscured by the brim of a hat. Open up, Harlan. We need to talk. The door creaked open to reveal Detective Ruiz, a wiry man with a badge that gleamed too polished for Ethan's liking. Rain still dripped from his collar, carrying the faint scent of cheap coffee and city streets. Heard you rolled into town last night. Girl matching her description. Runaway, they say. Stepdad's filing a report. Says she's confused, talking about ghosts and bikers. Ruiz's eyes flicked past Ethan to Sophia, who shrank back, her breath quickening. Ethan's stance hardened, blocking the view, the air thickening with unspoken threats. She's safe here, Ethan growled, his voice low, the weight of old battles pressing on his shoulders. No reports needed. Family business. Ruiz smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes that had seen too many deals in shadowed alleys. Family? Last I checked, you're a lone wolf ghost, but word's out. Old war debts surfacing. That stepdad, he's connected. Low-level muscle for the kind of folks who don't forget. He paused, glancing at the photo Ethan had left on the nightstand. Marcus's grin frozen in time. Heard stories about your buddy. Vanished after discharge, but debts don't. You stirring this up could get messy. Sophia's gasp cut the tension like a blade. She stepped forward, clutching the photo, her voice trembling but clear. He's my dad, not that man back home, this biker. He knew him, promised to find me. Ruiz's expression shifted, a flicker of something, pity, calculation. Crossing his features, Ethan felt the room tilt, the moral ground unsteady beneath him. Corruption wore many faces. This badge might be just another mask. Walk away? Detective, Ethan said, his tone edged with steel, or the vow rides for her. Ruiz backed out, the door clicking shut like a loaded chamber. Ethan turned to Sophia, kneeling to her level, the morning light now streaming through the curtains, illuminating the dust motes dancing like unspoken fears. We're not waiting. Crew's coming. We'll get you clear, find the truth about your dad. But as he spoke, his phone lit up with a photo from Lena, an old squad file, Marcus's service record, stamped "Deceased Confirmed." Ethan's blood ran cold. The promise he'd carried was built on a lie, or a cover. The revelation hung heavy, a shadow over the budding trust, as the roar of approaching engines signaled the vow's arrival. Loyalty demanded answers, but the cost might shatter them all. And now I invite you to leave in the comments where you're watching from and the exact hour you heard this story. We wish to know how far these northern confessions travel and at what moments they reach you. The roar of engines swelled like a gathering storm, shattering the fragile calm of the motel parking lot as the iron vow converged from the horizon. Dust devils swirled in their wake, kicked up by tires chewing gravel, the air thick with the metallic tang of hot rubber and the low thunder of exhaust pipes. Ethan stood at the window, his silhouette framed by the gauzy curtains, one hand steady on Sophia's shoulder as she peered out, her breath fogging the glass. 20 bikes now, not the full 50 yet, but enough to send a ripple through the sleepy dawn. Leathered figures dismounting with the precision of men who'd faced worse than a run-down pit stop. Jax led the pack, his massive frame unfolding from a custom chopper, beard braided with silver threads catching the rising sun. Lena pulled up beside him, her ponytail whipping like a flag of defiance, medical kit slung across her back like armor. Ethan stepped outside, the door creaking shut behind him, leaving Sophia in the dim safety of the room. The crew formed a loose semicircle, faces weathered by roads and regrets, eyes sharp under helmet brims. Jax clapped a meaty hand on Ethan's arm, the impact jarring but welcome, like a lifeline thrown in rough seas. "Ghost, you look like hell warmed over. What's the word on this kid?" Marcus's. His voice was a gravel baritone, honed from years barking orders in sand-swept ops. Ethan nodded, the weight of the night pressing like an unseen boot on his chest. "Yeah, Sophia. Ran from a bad setup. Stepdad's got ties, debts from the old days, and Ruiz just paid a visit, sniffing around like a hound on payroll." Lena pushed forward, her gaze flicking to the motel window where Sophia's small face hovered. "Let me see her first. If there's any sign of trouble, we patch it quiet." She was the crew's quiet anchor, a veteran nurse who'd lost her brother to a system that buried truths under red tape. Ethan led them inside, the floorboards groaning under their boots. The scent of stale coffee from the clerk's pot wafting in like an unwelcome ghost. Sophia sat straighter as they entered, her wariness easing at Lena's soft smile. "Hey, brave one. I'm Lena. Mind if I check you out? Just to make sure you're good." Sophia nodded, rolling up her sleeve to reveal faint bruises, blooming like storm clouds on pale skin. Marks of a home-turned battlefield, not the raw wounds of deeper harm. As Lena worked, gentle hands probing with the care of someone who'd mended more than bodies, Ethan pulled Jax aside to the corner, the room's single lamp casting their shadows long and jagged. He slid the phone across the rickety table, the screen still open to that damning file. Marcus's record, deceased, confirmed, stamped in cold bureaucracy. Jax's brow furrowed, his finger tracing the lines as if willing them to change. "This is bullshit. I pulled his ass out of that ambush myself. He walked away, laughing about some beach he wanted to see with his girl. No way he bought it after." Ethan's throat tightened, the memory flooding back, the acrid smoke of that final firefight, Marcus's voice cutting through the chaos. "Ghost, swear it. If I don't square this, find her. Keep her shining." The promise had been a tether, pulling Ethan from his aimless drifts, but now it frayed at the edges. Sophia watched them, her eyes darting between the men, the photo clutched in her lap like a talisman. "Is it true? About Dad?" Her voice was a whisper, laced with the raw edge of a child piecing together shattered dreams. Ethan knelt again, the carpet rough against his knees, meeting her gaze with the honesty of a man who'd stared down worse lies. The papers say yes, but papers lie, kid. Your dad was a survivor. He hid you deep for a reason. Old enemies, scores from the war that followed him home. I rode with him. He didn't go down easy." Jax grunted in agreement, crossing his arms like iron bars. "Crew's got contacts. We'll dig. If it's a cover, we'll blow it open. Vow doesn't break for ink on a page." Outside, the rest of the riders milled, engines ticking as they cooled, sharing smokes and low murmurs. The sun climbed higher, painting the lot in golden hues that belied the shadows creeping in. Lena finished her check, nodding to Ethan. "She's tough. A few scrapes, but nothing that won't heal. Needs rest. Food. Real food." She ruffled Sophia's hair, a maternal gesture that softened the girl's guarded stance. But as they planned the next move, head north to a safe house in the hills, away from Ruiz's reach, a black sedan rolled into the lot, unannounced, its tires crunching deliberate over the gravel. The driver stepped out, a slick-haired man in a suit too sharp for these parts, flanked by two goons with bulges under their jackets that screamed trouble. Ethan's crew tensed, hands drifting to concealed steel, the air crackling with unspoken readiness. The man, Victor Kane, by the glint of a gold pinky ring, smiled like a shark scenting blood. "Harlan, heard you picked up a stray. Stepdad's real torn up. Sent me to collect." His voice dripped oil, carrying the faint whiff of expensive cologne, masking cheaper motives. Sophia shrank behind Ethan, her hand finding his, small fingers gripping like roots in storm-tossed soil. Jax stepped forward, a wall of muscle. "This ain't your road, Slick. Girls with family now. Real family." Kane's eyes narrowed, flicking to the photo in Sophia's grasp. Family. Cute. Marcus owed big, debts that don't die with him. Whatever fairy tale she's spinning, it ends here. Hand her over, or we make it official. The threat hung, heavy as the heat rising from the asphalt, but Ethan's resolve hardened, forged in the fires of that old oath. He wouldn't yield, not to suits, not to ghosts. "Walk away, Kane. The vow's here. 50 more coming. You want her? You go through us." The words echoed like a gauntlet thrown, the moral line drawn sharp in the dust. As Kane retreated to his car, engine purring to life with a promise of pursuit, the crew mounted up. Ethan lifted Sophia onto his bike, her weight a solemn anchor, the wind whispering through the pines as they peeled out in formation, a convoy of loyalty cutting through the morning light. But the file's shadow lingered, a question burning. If Marcus was gone, what truths had he buried to protect her? And what price would Ethan pay to unearth them? The road ahead twisted like conscience itself, leading to revelations that would bind them tighter or break them apart. In the rear view, the motel faded, but the chase had just begun, engines roaring defiance against the gathering dark. The convoy thundered north along the winding ribbon of Highway 17, a serpent of blacktop flanked by jagged canyons and whispering scrub oaks, the midday sun beating down like an interrogator's lamp. Dust trailed in their wake, a hazy veil that blurred the horizon and masked the growl of engines into a symphony of defiance. Ethan rode point, Sophia's arms locked around his midsection, her cheek pressed against the worn leather of his jacket, absorbing the vibration like a heartbeat she could finally trust. The wind whipped through his salt and pepper hair, carrying the sharp bite of sagebrush and the faint, acrid echo of exhaust, a reminder that freedom came laced with pursuit. Behind him, Jax flanked left on his beast of a Harley, Lena to the right, her bike slicing clean lines through the air, the crew stretching back in an ironclad wedge of 20 souls, leathers gleaming under the relentless light. Sophia's voice cut through the roar, faint but insistent near his ear. "Where are we going? Those men. They'll follow." Ethan glanced back, catching her eyes, wide pools of uncertainty reflecting the blurred landscape. Safe house in the foothills, old mill off the grid. Crew knows it from the war days. Marcus picked it himself. The name hung between them, a talisman and a torment. That file from Lena's contact gnawed at him. Deceased, confirmed, a bureaucratic tombstone that clashed with the man he'd known. Resilient, cunning, the kind who turned defeats into escapes. Had Marcus faked it all? Staged a death to sever ties with shadows that hunted him? The thought twisted like the road ahead, pulling Ethan deeper into the moral quagmire. Loyalty demanded he chase the truth, but at what cost to the girl clinging to him? Miles blurred into a tense rhythm, the sun arcing higher, casting long shadows that danced like doubts across the asphalt. Jax signaled a pull-off at a weathered overlook, the convoy slowing to a halt amid boulders etched by wind and time. The engines sighed into silence, replaced by the rustle of wind through pines and the distant cry of a hawk wheeling overhead. Riders dismounted, stretching limbs stiff from the saddle, sharing waterskins and quiet nods. A family forged in fire, their bonds unspoken but unbreakable. Lena approached Sophia first, offering a protein bar from her pack, the wrapper crinkling like fragile peace. "Eat up, kid. Long ride left." Sophia took it, nibbling edges, her gaze drifting to the vast expanse below, where the black sedan from the motel might lurk like a predator in the folds of the land. Ethan gathered the core group near a splintered picnic table, the wood scarred by years of carved initials, ghosts of travelers past. He spread a faded map, fingers tracing routes inked with pencil, the paper whispering under his touch. Kane's not alone. Stepdad's a front for bigger fish. Debts Marcus dodged, maybe tied to wartime smuggling rings that never dissolved. Jax leaned in, his breath smelling of mint and resolve, eyes narrowing at the marked paths. Ruiz is in their pocket, saw it in his eyes. That badge is just shine on rust. We hit the mill, hole up, then I call in Marco, old intel guy from the squad. If Marcus is dust, fine, but if he's breathing... The words trailed, heavy with the weight of betrayal or salvation. Lena crossed her arms, her voice a steady anchor. And the girl, she's no pawn. If we drag her through this, it has to be for her sake, not Ghost's. Sophia edged closer, drawn by the circle of voices, the photo from Ethan's pocket now tucked safely in her backpack. I heard Mom once, late at night, talking on the phone about Dad owing the organization. Said he left something behind, a box, papers, to square it. That's why the stepdad. He wants it. Her words landed like stones in still water, rippling through the group. Ethan's pulse quickened, the pieces aligning in a mosaic of half-truths. Marcus had vanished not just to protect her, but to bury a secret that could unravel them all. A cache of evidence, stolen intel from the war that implicated corrupt brass? The promise Ethan carried suddenly felt like a chain, linking him to dangers he'd left in the sand, as the sun dipped toward the canyon rims, painting the sky in strokes of amber and crimson. A low rumble echoed from the south. Not thunder, but engines, multiple and closing fast. The crew snapped to alertness, hands on grips, eyes scanning the rearview haze. Jax cursed under his breath, mounting up. Scouts! Kane's playing catch-up. Ethan scooped Sophia onto his bike, her small frame settling with a nod of grim determination. Hold tight. We ride hard. The convoy erupted back to life, tires biting gravel as they surged forward, the overlook fading in a cloud of dust. The pursuing vehicles materialized on the straightaway, 2 sedans and a truck, black as oil slicks, gaining ground with predatory grace. The chase twisted through narrowing passes, rocks blurring into a gauntlet of grey, the wind howling protests as speeds climbed. Ethan's heart pounded in sync with the engine, every glance back a calculation of distance and resolve. Sophia buried her face against him, but her grip was iron, trust earned in motion. Jax veered wide to block, Lena weaving signals for the rearguard to fan out, turning the pursuit into a ballet of evasion. Bullets, None yet. This was a warning, a test of will. But Ethan's mind raced ahead to the mill. Hidden ledges, a creek for cover, time to unearth what Marcus had concealed. If the file was a lie, the revelation could redeem them, or ignite a war against the very authorities sworn to protect. They broke free at a fork, veering east into denser woods where the road fractured into forgotten trails, the pursuers faltering in the underbrush. The mill loomed at dusk, a skeletal frame of rusted beams and sagging roofs, shrouded in ivy like a sentinel's cloak. The crew rolled in silent, engines cut, the air cooling with the scent of damp earth and pine resin. Inside, lanterns flickered to life, casting warm pools amid the gloom. Sophia explored the corners, finding an old trunk etched with Marcus's initials, fate's cruel tease. Ethan pried it open, dust motes swirling like secrets unleashed, revealing letters yellowed with time, a locket with her photo inside, and a key taped to the lid. No body confirmed, no debts settled, just clues pointing to a life staged in shadows. As night fell, stars pricking the velvet sky, Ethan sat with Sophia by a low fire, the flames crackling confessions. "Your dad didn't die, kid. He hid to keep you safe from this." Her eyes lit with a dawn of hope. But Jax's radio buzzed, more riders incoming, and Kane's network closing the net. The truth was a double-edged blade, promising redemption but demanding sacrifice. Loyalty's ride was far from over. The moral horizon stretching into the unknown, where honor would clash with the corrupted heart of the system. If you like this chapter, hit that like button. It helps these stories of quiet courage reach more hearts in the shadows. The fire's embers pulsed like a weary heart in the mill's cavernous belly, casting flickering shadows across the rough-hewn walls, where cobwebs draped like forgotten veils. The air hung heavy with the scent of charred pine and damp stone, the night's chill seeping through cracks in the timber, carrying whispers from the surrounding woods. Ethan sat cross-legged on a threadbare blanket, the locket from the trunk dangling from his calloused fingers, its silver chain cool against his skin. Sophia leaned against him, her small form finally still after the day's frenzy, eyes heavy but fixed on the photo inside, a toddler's grin mirroring her own. Marcus's arm slung protectively around a woman whose face-time had blurred. The letters lay scattered nearby, ink faded but words sharp, promises of return, warnings of shadows that followed him from the war, a vow to bury the truth until she was old enough to carry it. Jax paced the perimeter, his boots thudding softly on the creaky floorboards. Radio clipped to his belt, crackling with static from distant check-ins. The crew had fanned out, Lena tending to minor scrapes in the loft, others standing watch at the shadowed entrances, their silhouettes etched against the star-pricked sky, visible through boarded windows. The key from the trunk weighed heavy in Ethan's pocket, a brass relic etched with coordinates that pointed to a hidden cache deeper in the foothills, perhaps the key to squaring Marcus's debts or unmasking the lie of his death. But doubt gnawed at Ethan like rust on chrome. The file's stamp echoed in his mind, a cold finality clashing with the warmth of Sophia's trust blooming beside him. "Tell me about him," Sophia murmured, her voice a fragile thread in the quiet, fingers tracing the locket's edge. "Dad? What was he like? Before?" Ethan hesitated, the fire's glow illuminating the scar along his jaw, a memento from the night Marcus had dragged him from wreckage under a hail of fire. Memories flooded unbidden, the blistering sand, the acrid bite of cordite, Marcus's laugh cutting through the fear like a blade. Tough as nails, but soft where it counted. Saved my hide more times than I deserved. We called him Iron, unbreakable. He'd talk about you during the long watches, said you were his reason to come home. Drew pictures in the dirt. You on a swing, him pushing, no wars, no debts. His voice roughened, the words pulling at threads long buried. Sophia's eyes glistened, a spark of connection igniting amid the grief. From the loft, Lena descended the ladder with quiet grace, her medical bag slung over one shoulder, face etched with the quiet resolve of someone who'd stitched souls back together. Crews settled, no signs of tails yet, but Kane's type doesn't quit easy. She knelt by the fire, adding a log that snapped and popped, sending sparks dancing upward like fleeting hopes. Jax joined them, sinking onto a crate with a grunt, his massive hands cradling a mug of reheated coffee, steam curling like ghosts. Marco's en route, ETA dawn. If anyone's got dirt on that file, it's him. But Ghost, you holding the line on this. Girls looking at you like you're the anchor now. Ethan met Sophia's gaze, the weight of her expectations settling like dust after a storm. The trunk's contents had stirred something deeper. A revelation simmering since the motel, one that twisted the promise into something personal, raw. He glanced at the letters again, one addressed not to her but to him. Ghost, if this finds you. No, I did it for her. The blood we spilled, it bound us closer than brothers. Watch her light. Blood. The word leaped out, a clue he'd overlooked in the rush. Marcus had never spoken of family beyond her, but the squad's final op, the one that shattered them all, had unearthed secrets in the chaos, stolen docks, bribes from brass who'd sold out their own. What if the debt wasn't just money? What if it was legacy hidden in plain sight? Sophia's hand tightened on his arm, pulling him back. You said he promised you'd find me. Why you? Out of everyone? The question hung, innocent yet piercing, the fire's crackle underscoring the silence that followed. Ethan exhaled slowly, the air tasting of smoke and regret. He reached into his jacket, pulling the faded photo from his pocket. The one that had started it all, Marcus and him side by side, younger, unbroken. But this time he flipped it over, revealing handwriting on the back. Marcus's scrawl. To my brother in every way but name. If I fall, raise my star. She's yours too. Sophia's breath caught, her eyes widening as she read, the words blurring through unshed tears. The crew leaned in, the circle tightening like a noose of shared fate. Jax's brow furrowed, Lena's hand pausing mid-motion. Ethan continued, voice steady despite the quake inside. Marcus and I, we weren't just squad. That last mission, the one the files bury, we uncovered a ring, officers trading lives for payoffs. He took the heat, vanished to shield it all. But before, in the thick of it, he made me swear more than watch. He said if the worst came, you'd need a father. Not blood, but chosen. I walked away after, thinking it was done, buried it with the sand, but seeing you, it's like he planned it. The revelation landed like a thunderclap, shocking the air from the room. Sophia's face crumpled, not in rejection, but in a flood of understanding. The biker she'd screamed for wasn't a stranger, but the ghost her father had forged from loyalty's fire. Jax broke the hush first, his voice gruff with emotion. Damn, Iron always played the long game. Lena nodded, eyes soft on Sophia, who now clutched the photo to her chest, a sob escaping like a dam breaking. He gave you to us, to family. But the moment's warmth fractured as the radio hissed to life, Marco's voice clipped and urgent. Incoming, Kane's got backup, badges too, and Ghost. That file? It's half true. Marcus took a hit, but he walked. Staged the rest. Cash has proof, implicates Ruiz's kin. They're coming to silence it. Engines rumbled faintly in the distance, growing, the woods alive with threat. Ethan rose, pulling Sophia to her feet, the locket slipping around her neck like a shield. The crew mobilized, shadows merging into purpose, the moral fire reignited. The revelation bound them tighter, a chosen blood that no debt could sever. But the night closed in, demanding they ride into the heart of corruption. Honor's promise wasn't just words now, it was the spark that would either light their way or consume them all. As the first headlights pierced the trees, Ethan whispered to her, He's not gone, and neither am I. The mill trembled with the approaching storm, loyalty's roar rising to meet it. The mill's timbers groaned under the assault of the encroaching night, the distant rumble of engines swelling into a predatory growl that vibrated through the frost-kissed earth. Moonlight sliced through the canopy like silver blades, illuminating the convoy's approach. Kane's black sedans flanked by patrol cars, their lights pulsing red and blue in a mocking heartbeat against the dark. Ethan stood at the threshold, his silhouette a bastion of resolve. Sophia's hand enveloped in his as the crew arrayed behind them, Jax reloading clips with mechanical precision, Lena securing the trunk's contents into a reinforced saddlebag, the others melting into the shadows with the quiet efficiency of men and women who danced with death before. The air crackled with the scent of pine sap and gun oil, tension coiling like a spring in the chill wind that rustled the ivy-cloaked walls. "Stay close," Ethan murmured to Sophia, his voice a low anchor amid the rising din, the locket at her throat catching a glint from the fire's dying embers. She nodded, her small face set with a fierceness that echoed Marcus's unyielding spirit, the revelation of Ethan's role. Chosen guardian, brother in blood and vow, igniting a fire in her eyes that no shadow could dim. The letters and key were their arsenal now, proof of corruption woven into the fabric of the system, Ruiz's family ties to the wartime ring, bribes that had cost lives, including the staged end to Marcus's tale. It wasn't just debts, it was justice long denied, a moral reckoning that demanded they stand firm. Jax edged to Ethan's side, his breath visible in the cooling air, the radio's static hissing like a serpent. "Marco's circling back, brought reinforcements, but we're outnumbered 3-1. Cache is a half-mile hike, hidden ledge by the creek. We draw 'em in, slip out the back." His plan was simple, etched in the hard lines of experience, but Ethan's gut twisted with the weight of it all. This wasn't a skirmish for territory. It was for a girl's future, for the honor of a man who'd forged their family from the ashes of war. Lena approached, her face calm as she pressed a small pistol into Sophia's pack, just in case. Before melting into the perimeter, her nurse's hands now steady on a rifle's stock. The first vehicle breached the tree line, tires crunching over fallen branches, headlights sweeping the mill like accusatory fingers. Kane emerged from the lead sedan, his suit rumpled, but his posture unyielding, flanked by Ruiz and a half-dozen enforcers, badges mingling uneasily with the shadows of hired muscle. The detective's face twisted in the erratic light, a man caught between oath and inheritance, the proof in Ethan's possession, a noose tightening around his neck. "Harlan, this ends now. Girl comes with us. Debts get settled quiet. You walk away. No questions." Kane's voice boomed, oily confidence laced with desperation, the faint whiff of his cologne cutting through the earthy night. Ethan stepped forward into the open, the gravel shifting under his boots, Sophia's warmth at his back a reminder of stakes beyond survival. "No deals, Kane. Marcus's truth sees light tonight. Your organization's rot, Ruiz's blood money. It stops here." The words hung, a gauntlet in the charged air, as Jax's crew fanned out from concealed positions, engines reignited in a low chorus that drowned the intruder's advance. Gunfire erupted, not a barrage, but precise shots into the dirt at their feet, kicking up dust clouds that glowed ethereal in the beams. Chaos bloomed, shouts echoing off the canyon walls, vehicles swerving as tires blew under targeted fire, the moral line blurring into a symphony of restraint and warning. Sophia clutched Ethan's jacket, her breath quick but steady, the locket a talisman against the fray. "They're scared," she whispered, insight sharp as a blade, and in that moment, Ethan saw Marcus in her. The quiet courage that turned tides without a fist raised in vain. Ruiz broke ranks, advancing with hands up, his polished badge catching moonlight like a false promise. "Ghost, listen, it's bigger than us. The file. It was to protect. Marcus knew, begged me to bury it. Families involved. We can fix this off books. His plea cracked. Desperation peeling back the corruption, revealing a man ensnared by legacy's chains. But Ethan shook his head, the crew's formation a wall of leathers and loyalty, Lena's voice cutting through from the flank. Fix? Like you fixed the squad? No more shadows. The standoff teetered, engines revving as Marco's reinforcements crested the ridge. Another 20 bikes, headlights converging like stars, aligning for judgment. Kane's men faltered, the numerical edge crumbling under the weight of unbreakable bonds. A single shot rang out, wild and warning, but it shattered the illusion. Ruiz lunged forward, not in attack, but surrender, dropping a satchel at Ethan's feet. Files mirroring their own, confessions inked in regret. Take it, end the cycle. For her. The night fractured then, not in violence, but revelation's quiet thunder. Kane's convoy peeled back into the dark, tires screeching retreat, the badges scattering like leaves in a gale. Ruiz knelt in the dust, the fight drained from him, his words a hoarse confession. Marcus faked it all for you, kid, said the ghost would come. Honor the promise. Sophia stepped forward, her small hand extending the locket, a symbol of forgiveness forged in fire. Ethan pulled her close, the crew encircling them, Jax's nod, a seal on their victory, not conquest, but redemption's dawn. As the first light of false dawn crept over the foothills, painting the mill in soft golds, the Iron Vow rode out in formation, the cache secured, truths unbound. Sophia rode with Ethan, the wind carrying away the night's chill, her laughter tentative but real, a sound like healing rain. The debts were squared not in blood, but in the light of loyalty's enduring flame. Marcus's spirit lingered in the miles ahead, a chosen family whole, honor's legacy etched in the roar of engines fading into the horizon. The road twisted toward peace, promises kept in the silence of scars mended, justice poetic in its grace. Thank you for riding with us through this tale of unbreakable bonds and quiet redemption. If Ethan's story moved you, please subscribe. We share these journeys to light the way for more souls in the shadows.